Hi guys, welcome back. In today's video, I'm going to go over what I like to call the investment quadrant. This is what I use when I start to think about money and investments. And it's something we all need to know in order to understand how money works when it comes to investing. So let's jump right into it. So this right here is the quadrant. We got 4 boxes, each of which will tell us what the probability of an investment working out and how much we will receive based on that investment. In the first quadrant, we have high risk, low return investments, and these are going to be the worst places to place your money when it comes to investing. These are usually going to be companies with new technology such as startups, companies in which you have no ownership, just stock ownership. And depending on how much money you really have that you're able to put into this investment, that's really what's going to determine your return. However, one thing to keep in mind is that this sort of investment is really risky, so the chances of you losing your money is fairly high. So why would someone try to even invest in this sort of investment? To be quite honest with you, just because someone believes in the technology and wants to get it out into the world. For the average person like you and me who are just trying to figure out how to double our money, this would not be the sort of investment that I would put my money in. The second quadrant is high risk, high returns. Now this quadrant is not for everyone. You have to really look at your risk tolerance in order to play in this game. Now throughout this video, I'm gonna say game because I like to look at the world as a game. So don't think that I'm actually talking about a game. Either way, you have to look at your risk tolerance. For me, I like to play in this quadrant because my risk tolerance is pretty high. Examples for this quadrant would be penny stocks, NFTs, Bitcoin. Heck, even my ATM company is a high risk investment. But the reason why I choose to play in this quadrant is because I'm young and I can afford to bounce back later in my 30s if I fail somehow. Also, my income is variable compared to a lot of people who's fixed. There are months where I make 5, 10, 15, or 20K. It all depends on how good of a month I have. Nonetheless, knowing the fact that my income is variable, I choose to keep my expenses low in order to be able to play in this quadrant. Because if anything goes bad, I can afford to keep going in the hopes to hit gold one day and get the return that I really want from all of this. Now, the third quadrant is low risk, low return. And this is the quadrant that I would suggest everyone plays in because you don't have to worry about your money. Yes, the returns are low, but you're not constantly worrying about whether you're losing money that day. And for this quadrant, you can place your money into savings accounts, bonds, or even some retirement accounts. You're playing the long game in this quadrant. You're not going to get rich overnight, and your money is not going to exponentially grow until 40 years from now. Either way, you can continue to live your life regularly and not have to worry about your money as it constantly slowly grows. That way, when you're older, 40 years from now, you can retire somewhat comfortably. Now, the fourth quadrant is low risk, high returns. And this right here is the unicorn I like to call because it is really rare and this is what everyone wants. And the only times you get exposed to these types of investments is if you're playing with big boy money, I like to call it. Or you're playing in a game where you have an advantage. Let's say, for example, you run a successful flower shop and you're bringing in over $1 million in revenue and cash flow is great. This means that you already know how to build a $1 million business. And now all you really have to do is figure out a way to multiply yourself. And you can do this in many different ways. One of the ways you can do it is to find a partner or someone that also wants to run a flower shop. They can open up their own shop in another city or another state. By doing that, now you've extended your risk to someone else, but because you already built the same business, you won't be taking on the same risk as starting one from the ground up. So the chances of you failing in that new endeavor are going to be very low and you're going to get the returns that you want. This is also one of the quadrants I love to play in because of the high returns. I love going for the high returns, but that's because of the point I am in my life. Right? I'm young, so I can afford to bounce back even if all fails. Look, when it comes to investing your money, there's 2 questions you want to ask yourself. What is your risk tolerance and what is your time horizon? They each go hand in hand with the quadrants. The higher the risk, the higher the rewards. The lower the time, the lower the returns, unless it's risky, which I wouldn't suggest anyone take on. Either way, the point of the video is this: to go ahead and shift your mindset to start thinking of risk and reward as variables that go hand in hand with each other, not only with money, but with life. These 2 things go hand in hand with each other and are the things that I use when it comes to making decisions about life or money. And the other point of this video is to answer the question that most people ask me: what is a good return? Well, that answer to that question is that it all depends. What are you investing in? What are the risks? What do you know about that investment? And how long is it going to take you to get your money back? The easiest way I like to think about investments and whether I'm going to put my money into something is this. I like to compare all investments to the S&P 500 because it's one of the easiest low risk investments that you can take on. On average, it brings in about 5 to 10% returns annually, usually on the lower ends. But there's very small risk when it comes to putting your money there. If someone comes into my life and tells me, hey, invest in my company and you'll make X amount of returns, I'm looking at all these different variables and I start to think about myself, and finally I go with my gut. Is it better to just put my money into the S&P 500 or put it into this new investment? And that's how I make my decisions. It doesn't get any simpler than that. But when it comes to these high risk investments, it's not for everyone. I've come to find out that normally not everyone has a high risk tolerance. And I get it. It can be mentally draining, even for me. But it can also be very worthwhile. And the returns are great. So you just have to do what's best for you and your situation. Look at what you want out of your investments. Think about how much you really want to worry about your investments and just invest. Because if you're not taking part in any of this investment game, then your money's just dying because of inflation. But that's all for today. Hopefully you found this information valuable. Now, hopefully you know how to diversify your money and choose investments. So if you did find value, go ahead and hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you guys next time.